Academy of Health and Military Performance, also known as CHAMP, of the Uniformed Services University of Health and Science, known as USUHS, is conducting a study to understand a possible genetic link between sickle cell trait, known as SCT, and exercise-related events, known as EREs, such as exertional rhabdomyolysis, muscle damage, heat stroke, and or collapse. We are inviting African-American men and women with sickle cell trait and their family members to participate. Participating in the study will require you to complete a health history questionnaire, a form authorizing our study physician to gather health information from you and your healthcare provider, as well as a one-time blood donation. In order to qualify for the study, you must meet the following criteria: be African American, be sickle cell trait positive, be able to read, speak, and understand English, be between the ages of 18 and 80, and currently not being treated for any mental or psychological disorders. Participation is completely voluntary, and your decision will not impact your healthcare. The results for this study are for research purposes only and are not intended to directly benefit any individual for confidentiality reasons. However, the results of this study are intended to help better shape policies and associated health risks affecting the SCT community. Participants may be compensated for their time. To join the study, or if you would like additional information regarding the study, please contact the study team by phone, area code 240-479-9514, or email sctstudy-ggg@usuhs.edu.
The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, morrismedialive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Good morning. Welcome to the ladies' room. This morning, it's your girl KB, along with Angie Scott.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
Brenda won't be here today. She is on her way to Arkansas to see her son play in a college football game.
Good luck, Brenda's son.
Yeah.
Yes.
And safe travels.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, join us today as we discuss the bleach-free way to make your white sheets whiter than white. And I also have a question for the ladies.
Okay.
Why do we toughen up our daughters and not our sons for the world?
Good question.
But before that, we're going to go into the Lady of the Week. And my Lady of the Week is Shirley Chisholm.
Awesome.
Shirley Anita Hill Chisholm was the first African-American woman in Congress, 1968. And she was the first woman and African-American to seek the nomination for president of the United States from one of the two major political parties in 1972. Her motto and title of her autobiography, Unbossed and Unbought, illustrated her outspoken advocacy for women and minorities during her 7 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives. Excuse me, I got my tea this morning.
Okay.
And did you pick a woman of the week?
I did. I chose Audre Lorde. I don't know, we have a picture of Audre Lorde, but Audre was a writer. She was a poet. She was an activist. She was a feminist before it was popular to be a feminist. And she was an activist. She fought for and spoke up for everyone that needed it, despite, you know, and before her time in the LGBT community and African Americans, women specifically.
What year?
Oh, in the 70s. In the 70s. I can get very specific. And let's see here. In the 70s. She was very prominent in the 70s with her poetry and everything. But her quote, she had a quote that I really loved. And the quote states, "It is not our differences that divide us. It is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences." The reason why I love that is because it can be taken in so many different contexts. For example, when you hear that, you automatically think of maybe different cultures, different races, different types of people.
Right.
But I find that we need to take it a couple of levels lower. As far as when I meet you, my immediate default response is to judge you. Okay, you know, where is she coming from? Let me see how to approach her. And I really believe that if she's different from me, if you are different from me, I need to maybe learn from it, accept it, respect it. And that immediately kind of takes down the barriers between us two. So I think Audrey, if you look her up, and look her up if you can, she was an amazing woman. Look her up. She had many quotes, just many perspectives on life and for women and minorities that you should really look into and revisit. Yeah,
I will do that. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
If you don't do it, I'm going to look for you. All right.
You know where to find me.
No.
No. Okay, so now the bleach-free way to make your whites whiter than white. And I keep losing my voice. You would fill a container up with hot water, boiling hot water. Add a 1/4 cup of baking soda. This is for my son. Then you would use a cup of distilled vinegar.
Okay.
And the juice of 1 lemon. You add all that to the water, and you get a pair of tongs and just mix it.
Okay.
Let it, mix it. Let it marinate.
Congeal. I know some of the washers have a soak cycle, so
Right,
you can actually
right.
just put in there and let it kind of
let it soak in that. Right.
And then just kind of let it soak. Okay.
Yeah, and then you wash it. No bleach, because bleach tends to make whites yellow. So.
They make them weak.
Yeah.
You notice they'll get like
and
little
dingy.
holes. And
Yeah,
dingy.
you're right.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so that was a tip for my son to keep his sheets white.
Okay, or use fluorescent beige. You know, I like to use fluorescent beige sheets. I'm joking.
Or use fluorescent beige. Okay, so now moving on to the next question.
Okay.
Why do we toughen up our daughters for the world and not our sons? Not saying that all ladies do that, more particularly in the single family homes. You find mothers who tend to toughen up their daughters and not our sons.
Well, I think both of us were kind of in a unique position. I have a daughter and I have a son. I have the two. No more. Don't want more. But I think, how do I want to say? By default, we try and prepare our daughters for the things that we've been through, and we try and prepare our sons for the man that we want. And I think we're doing a disservice to both, to be quite honest. I think while you can't raise them completely the same way, I think focusing on raising a good person and a person that can kind of have empathy for others and withstand struggles is where the foundation should be. Now, you have the things that you know, the feminine things, the male things. Regardless to what I can do, I have to pass the torch to my ex-husband to teach my son how to be a man. I can teach him how to be a good person. And what I don't ever want to do is take on that responsibility. I think I'm being I don't think that he would benefit from me teaching him how to be the man that I would want. And I think that's what we do. The hard times that we go through, we're like, so just in case this happens, your mom gave you that, keep some money in the till just in case, keep some run money, or do this and do that. So we prepare her for the heartache.
Right.
But we try to prepare our sons to be softer. And I think oftentimes it's hard for those two people to come together. You have to, you understand what I mean? So the why, I think that might be. What do you think?
Well, I think that for me it's a little different because, I have so many boys and I wanted them to be able to maintain on their own. So I taught them how to cook. I taught them how to clean. I taught them how to, just, prepare for life and be able to make it.
Absolutely.
And I think I was a little harder on the boys because I'm like, you need to, open the door, automatic. These bags are heavy. Come get them.
Absolutely.
So for my daughter, I think that I was a lot more easier on her because I can sympathize with her. You know what I mean? And I just had my boys to protect her. To you always lend a helping hand. And for me, it was different when I grew up because we had to do everything, the girls, and my brother didn't have to do nothing. Because he was the boy.
Sound familiar.
And we had to. We
sound a little bit familiar. You understand?
And I used to, always question my mom about that. Why am I taking out the trash and not him? You know what I mean? Because he played ball, he's tired.
Really?
Yeah. So
I'm
it's
carrying
like
these ovaries around.
I have Pioneer
Patrol
practice.
Pioneer Patrol. Do we want to talk about our history? Do we want to talk?
We're gonna talk about it. But yeah, I'm just like for my brother, everything was done for him.
Okay.
So for me, when I had kids, I changed that around.
Good for you.
But yeah, I definitely wanted to you know how my boys do the man things, and you're right, we can teach a boy how to be a man, but I'm gonna teach you to be the person or the man that I would want, you know, as a husband.
Self-sustaining.
Right.
Absolutely. And sometimes I feel like my daughter takes on my ways and my energy.
My daughter definitely does. Definitely.
I'm like, put it down, Alexander. Put it down. Let your brother get it. Put it down. Don't do that. She's always, can I help? Can I do?
Yeah.
And I think because now I'm a divorced mom, I do so much. I'm always running. So she picks up my traits, and I've had to come and sit and talk to her. And I'm like, you're not to worry. You're to go to school. You're to be the best woman you need to be. Let me worry about that. I don't want her to take on anything.
Look what the cat drug in.
Hey. What's up, Fuchsia? All right.
Okay, we're going to just go ahead. Come on.
Have a seat. I'm
Elias Daily, everybody.
Right.
Pleased to meet you.
You too, sir.
I'm not known to be tardy, but
really
for the
traffic
party
at 10 o'clock. Somebody trying to get out and hang out this weekend.
That's what's happening.
Guess we might not need that. How you doing? Good
not
morning.
yet. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you distracted me.
You're not gonna know what to.
You distracted me.
I was listening on my way in, so you know I want to.
Okay, go ahead and weigh in on that.
Well, I just was in the car.
Right.
I listened.
Right.
Yeah.
Corner, I heard the intro. But
yeah. So
the question. Tell me
the question is, why do we toughen up our daughters for the world and not our sons?
And it's interesting because if you go to my Instagram today, right, my daughter has been wanting to kind of be independent, right? So you get to that age where it's in the level of independency, right? So this is kind of like a real life story. So she's academically been struggling like with being on task, but independently, she's been making up her bed, getting her clothes, making her own cereals, you know, make sure her backpack, her homework is done, right? But then when we go to the classroom, we have these challenges, right? So for the last couple of weeks, she kept saying, because the community that she goes to school in, I literally drive in the community, get out the car, and walk her to school. So that whole walk to school piece gives me an opportunity to figure out how to inspire her day, or, you know, because, you know, kids, every day is a different day with them.
Right.
So she said to me, well, when can I just walk across the crosswalk and go to school? And I put it on today, and I filmed it. And that's kind of what you're talking about. I mean, there's like levels with kids. Like now I have an older son that now I got to go through tough love with because he's been so, as he would call it, privileged. So now I have to say, okay, you're a certain age. Now I'm finna extend you maybe to a studio apartment or share a room, and then you kind of figure out your life, right? So that's boy versus girl, but the elements is kind of always still the same, basic stuff. Like it's the basic stuff, and then, you know, your basic fundamental needs, right, as a young adult. Are your basic fundamental things you have to do as you're in elementary school in regards to doing your homework. So once I think families go back to those fundamental things, I think it works on both ends, you know, but it doesn't really have to be, you know, daughter versus, because you got to look at now, like being a coach and an athlete and working with young kids, it's only mothers that are raising athletes. So when you say be tougher, who is to be tougher? So, because there's this missing piece of maybe a absentee father or mentor that's male dominant.
Right.
They may only know their teachers, their coaches, their uncle, somebody who comes around, but day to day they're disciplinary. And if you hear all the stories about kids or even just professional athletes, it's always about the mom who gave them and instilled these things. And as you know, being a mother of boys.
Right. And they do give me their props.
As they should.
I'm at my house.
Right.
My house.
No, but it's interesting that you said when you dropped your daughter off at school, because I dropped my son off at school as well, my 8-year-old. And he, I don't get out and walk him because he doesn't allow it.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to kiss him in the car real quick before his friends see and all that. But he's, I guess he's learning from the older kids, because, you know, he's 8, he has older siblings, and so when we go out, you know, I'm taking him to school, he'll come out and open my door, You know, he takes pride in that. So, you know, I let him do it. Mm-hmm. And I find myself being more harder with him because he's young and he's a boy. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to prepare him for life.
Absolutely.
It's a complete village of people, you know, working in the community, having kids, seeing the social ills that are out there.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you look at we're like going in second generation of just chemical dependent children. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you got to remember the 80s was the crack era.
Right.
Now those parents are now really grandparents, you know,
to
these
so
kids
true.
that was part of a really bad epidemic, you know, in our own community.
That's so true.
So, you know, then that breaks down, goes back into more current things with the mental health that's current today. The reform with the men who are coming out of prison that were locked up for these 20, 30 years. And now you're looking at these 20, 30-year-old kids that are on Instagram who didn't have that father.
Right.
Or the mother that we try, will we instill our children with. I mean, I think that walking around saying that, you know, I don't need a man, but your children absolutely do. Mm-hmm. And you can't, whatever I unleash on you or whatever I provide you with is going to be deficient in some manner. Then it may be biased. You know, I'm not taking away anything from single moms at all.
Right.
What I'm saying is that we need that village. And although we're the super women, we're the superpower as we're called, we can't do it alone.
Right.
Your children can't develop. They'll develop.
But
when you find things or issues, the mental health things comes into play. They want to supplement our children with things, and oftentimes it's attention. Oftentimes it's
I mean, all the ADDH medicine that's given to the inner city kids based on them not being attentive or, you know, I mean, we used to just get thumped in the head with spanking, and you just know to go back to school, and it's different now.
Being a teacher and having two different populations, you know, I have adult and I have high school students.
Interesting.
And oftentimes I have to get over that barrier. And I have a room full of 40 different personalities.
Right.
And I have to get it's amazing how to get to each one of them. And depending on what they came in with is what I have to get beyond.
Wow.
And oftentimes it's my children and my adults that are challenged. I'll have adults and I'll detect a disability. But do I want to tell a man that's 6'3", growner than me, that owns a construction company, that's coming to get, you know, a diploma or whatever else because he needs it, that, you know what, I think you may have this.
That goes back to the new...
So my method,
well, let me take this
methodology.
time. Let me just take time, not to cut you
off.
off.
That the new movie that just came out with Kevin Hart, with a night school?
That night school.
That's
he had a deficiency, right?
That's a portion.
Right.
Oh, I haven't seen it. Maybe I need to go check it out.
No, it just came out.
That was kind of the core of it. He had this problem learning. And
right.
Oh, wow.
But to our audience, I wanted to introduce our guest, Ilya Daly, marketing media expert.
Yeah, thank you.
And then Angela Scott.
Hello.
She's a mom, an educator, entrepreneur. My friend.
Hey.
Tell them how we met, girl.
Ooh, okay. So we actually went to high school together. We went to
her sister and my sister and us too.
We're both older, so her older sister and my older sister.
And then us too.
And then us too. How you doing?
Good.
So what ended up happening, you know, we're friends in high school. We got reconnected now, but we found out in high school that we actually knew each other before then.
Right.
So our dads used to play basketball together
at Long Beach Poly.
At Poly, Silverado Park, Best Park.
Right.
And then my dad would take me and my sister, and her dad would take her and her sister. So we used to play together while they played ball.
And then we ended up going to high school together.
And
then we ended up getting our black activism on at high school. Girl, we was partner patrol. We was bad back in the...
I'm telling you.
Our teacher... What?
I'm telling you.
We were bad.
Like, I'll take your man.
Hey.
The women Black Panthers.
No, what it was... Actually, we can speak on it really quickly. The school was predominantly white and Asian. And we were maybe 4% of the school.
Right.
Okay.
So they wouldn't put us on the...
cheerleading squad. It was only one black on the cheerleading squad. And we was just too tight. We was just too fly for that. We were like, really?
Gonna, make it happen. So we're like, we want to start this club, the Spirit Club. And they were like, you know what? No. And I think we'd just seen someone else create a Spirit Club. So, you know, first
so you can't tell us no.
Let me call my mama. So,
right.
So the moms came to the school. Y'all understand me? The moms came to the school and say no.
Up for y'all.
Right.
And this is what happened. But as we do, they gave us our criteria, and they said, this is what you need
and
to
we
monitor.
followed that. We followed
they will
that
do
to
it.
the T.
And it went on, and it went on, and it went on. And
we became Pioneer Patrol.
Pioneer Patrol in the building, because we were
5 minutes of
pioneers.
funk.
That's what's up. And slide and pause.
Okay.
I don't know what I drove here for, but this is classic. I like it.
That's what's happening. Coming to a theater near you.
That's pretty cool too. I mean, I think that helps that village, because like I'm from the Bay Area, and I came to college.
People from the Bay Area always brag that they from the Bay Area.
My grandmother's mother, right, who fed the homeless in Oakland for 37 years. So
very nice.
So it's like, it's funny because I just went back home, and every time you go home, it's a different feeling of seeing the people that knew you from like elementary and middle school and high school, and then like people here in college, you come here from college, they just know you as an adult,
right?
So it's like a whole. So for you guys to know each other and have that 8-track feeling,
He said 8-track. Well,
we wasn't that way back.
I said, I'm just saying, go way back.
Pull out. Kenwood pull out. You know what I mean? Hammer pants.
Okay. The knee signs on center lines.
Ooh, the Jeep, the samurai.
That's going back to the POTUS era back then.
El Camino on Dayton.
Don't age me. I wasn't there. I will not claim it.
When you could really go down Crenshaw.
Ooh, and pause and stop and flirt.
Get out.
Right. Keep going.
You might meet your new famous one there.
Go back. Yes, ma'am.
So anyway, I find it interesting that you're in education. My sister is also in education.
Yes, ma'am.
Where do you think that education is headed?
Well, it's headed, I think, in a good way. And I say that because my position on education is really a little bit different than other educators. I don't believe that college is for everyone.
Right.
And I've been pushing that for quite a long time. And now the education system is finally coming along with my train of thinking. Everyone's not an academic. And I think what we do is we condemn the students that don't have an A or a B average. Right. We forget about everybody else. And what you need to understand is that excludes them from developing. And when I say that, if I have a student that, he may not be an A or a B student, but he loves animation. So let me get him in something that moves him. This girl knows how to work on engines. So she's going to be a much more confident, well-rounded student in my class because I foster that thing in her. I'll foster that trade. So in education, what's happening is there's something called an AB grant. It's called a block grant. It's an adult education block grant. And what they're doing is they're rebuilding and restructuring the CTE system. CTE is career development, career and technical education. And what that is your electricians, your plumbers, your trades. Some great things that are happening is they have partnerships. And by the time a student may graduate high school, they're a medical assistant or they're a computer engineer that can make websites. They're creating things. Remember when everybody used to kind of laugh about DeVry graduates and ITT graduates? They're the ones that are in the high wage jobs and things of that nature. And because what we do in education, they class just like we do. Okay, where did you go to school? Oh, that's where you went to school? Where did you go to school? Knowledge is knowledge.
Right.
So we do that with students also. What kind of grades are you getting? Oh, you're here. We treat them differently. And those are the students that I have. I have students that are on the comeback.
Oh, okay.
And what I always find I have to do, even with high school students and adult students, is build that up. They beat themselves up. I should have done this when I was in high school. I said, no, well, you're here now. If you didn't come now, you wouldn't have met me. Let's make it happen. So from there...
No,
go ahead.
So you're saying that they're bringing those classes back?
Absolutely. They're creating
high school or
high school. They're creating pathways through community programs and community colleges.
So is it like via ROP? Because when we were in school, it was ROP. ROP was
not
everything.
Called ROP anymore. And some, they're phasing ROP out, and it's called CTE.
They have phased it out.
Career and technical development. They've just finally gotten to, like, for example, you're in media. So you may have a pathway that you can train students to be able to work in your industry.
If I can intercede a little bit.
No, not at all.
You're like totally on the right path, and it has a lot to do with the social ills that we're dealing with now. Being in media, I've had the opportunity to work with companies like Yourgirl. And Europe is basically partners with like a West LA or Southwest LA college. And basically you have Kaiser Permanente, Cedar Sinai, Wells Fargo. All these companies have a buy-in for kids, right? So these kids basically have a 1 year, 18-month opportunity to get a job with one of these companies. So they finish some classroom work, then they do 6 months of classroom work, and then they do 6 months of intern work, and then after the intern, they're offered a job with either Kaiser, depending on what they pick through their program. The whole program is designed in educating them how to dress and how to, communicate and all this. So it's Year Up and Leaders Up. But we also have the problem, which our career awareness program is really all about, is that there's jobs behind the jobs. Right. So I've dealt with the same issue where you basically have kids that want to play basketball, but they're just not that talented. Right. They're not getting the same counseling opportunities in high school because you are 3.2 or a 2.9 GPA. You're number 8 on the bench, but you're still an opportunity for someone to get you to college. But the social economics of your situation is, maybe you're not designed for college, but who are giving you the vocational opportunities? Absolutely. No one. And then who's giving you the other tools to actually just to go through the process of saying what college I want to go to, I feel my FAFSA, I'm a student athlete, do I feel get my clearinghouse? All these different things has to happen. You don't even have a computer at home. Right. You see what I'm saying? So the vocational learning is the bigger piece, because we do have like Morris Media Studios where you basically will eventually have an academy where kids can come in and learn this craft, from podcasting to everything we do on the digital side, and maybe take it to a next level.
And I would hope that, and I'll speak for the underserved, the parents of those. Because the parents of those that did not, remember when our parents came up, they could go get a city job and they can raise their families. That's not really there anymore. So many opportunities for people that are out of school. That would be a good avenue too. And I know right now it's focused on students and younger students, but we encourage them to bring their parents in to get more training and to educate them, because
it's definitely
it's necessary.
It's a balance. I mean, because when I was in Arizona, we built the NFL Yet program, and it was basically just inner city kids in South Phoenix. And there are just times where because you lived, like you said, an address, they couldn't get a job in Phoenix or Chandler or anything like that because their address was South Phoenix. So after high school, that was it. It was just, do you want fries with that? That's, and then here I'm working with, fries. But I'm just saying now I'm working with their kid. Who's now going to college. Right. So that's the first generation in their family to go to college. And we know the college rate of graduating for inner city kids is growing because kids are now a lot smarter. Right. So, they say that, we ain't going, but it's...
But we are. HBCUs. And I had a question regarding the SAT. Are they weeding that out? Or...
Well, there's the SAT and there's the ACT. They're not weeding it out. Our children tend to do better on the ACT.
Why is that? Or why do you think?
Why do I think?
I say it's really more comprehension, because that's how you learn, So the SAT is kind of pick this answer. It's kind of to trick you, where ACT is kind of more of your comprehension. If it's kind of more of a basic comprehension of basic math, basic skills, basic things, we do well with that. But when it's the SAT,
the tricky one.
I mean, because you actually really go to it. They have SAT workshops that you go to to say, okay, well, you may think it's this one, but they tricked you with a word here. But so you plan this strategy on the SAT, and I think we don't really do well.
The SAT is more, that's more comprehension. One other thing I wanted to speak on about education, I think we were talking about that. When we push colleges for jobs, and we need college for jobs, and that's all well and good, corporations are finding that when they get these people, they don't know how to relate to people. They don't know how to speak. You're talking about the program in, I think the West LA, where you're talking about communication skills, how to interview. I do what's called soft skills, and I'll go in and I've even trained my peers, how do I want to say, some of my teachers, we do programs to where we teach them how to relate to people, and I have kind of my 10 soft skills. Empathy, time management, diplomacy, and diplomacy is so underplayed these days, where it's very much needed. Diplomacy is the ability to, for example, I can listen to you. I can take you in. We can have extreme. This kind of speaks on the quote I got. We can have completely two different perspectives, experiences, and me being able to decipher that and respect your position and to speak to you in that form. Okay. So we can
be not argue with
just happy mediums.
Happy mediums, but we can have a huge disagreement, but it does not have to be an adversarial type of energy.
You can still learn from each other's perspective.
I can be diplomatic, and I can say, okay, well, hold on, let's kind of, let's reshift this energy, and let me know where you're trying to say. Almost like a mediator in a sense.
Okay.
And I think everybody these days are so quick to speak. Mm-hmm. They're so quick to text. They're so quick to react. And oftentimes we're not quick to understand and comprehend and empathize that is their position. I do something in one of my workshops. I'll do something. So I'll take something like this cup, and I say, okay, write down what you see. Right? So you'll write down what you see. Kim will write down what she sees.
Okay.
So I have Kim get up. Okay, tell the class, I see a cup. Around. Yeah, she said, I see a cup. I see this thing, and I see a cup. You'll say, you know what? I see this blue circle with some dots. And I'll say, okay, who's wrong? Well, she's wrong because I see this. Nobody's wrong. You have to look at where you're sitting, and that's your perspective. That's how you see it.
It's a referee.
I guess it can be a referee.
It is a referee because a referee only call what he can see. We always get upset at the referee.
But
it's
I
just
think
your
it's a
perspective on how you see it.
In respecting that you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's from your experience. If I don't know how to speak Chinese, I'm going to say that didn't make no sense. You know how to speak it. It didn't make perfect sense to you. My experience didn't put me in a position to understand it.
Right.
So just teaching that. To appreciate others' perspectives. We don't generally, we are all trying to build brands. Mm-hmm. A lot of us aren't trying to build character.
Right.
And I think that's a lot more important because you bring self into wherever you go. That's the first thing you bring. And how I relate to you is going to be, I'm going to be open to what you have to teach me and vice versa. So I think that when I go in and I teach soft skills and I tell people, okay, empathize with what he's saying. Look at his perspective.
So where did all that come from? Did that come from some training that you got previously, or is it just something that you kind of gathered organically based on
the state training?
Both. I sought it. Now, I how do I want to say? Don't want to get too personal.
Because it's so cute, soft skills. I'm gonna because they're already coming at you soft.
It's needed. It's
needed. Oh, we can say interpersonal or
very marketable
human skills.
You need soft skills.
Well, it's organic in a sense because I always go inward. When something doesn't work, I know that I play a part in everything. So I'll go inward and see what my part was in it. Mm-hmm. But to get the money, you need the training. So, of course, I sought training after the fact, but I developed a course on it.
Okay.
Oftentimes with small businesses, their staffs may not know customer service, know how to treat you. We put salt in it. You say you don't like it, we put salt in it. It's like, come on.
That's what every corporation nowadays.
There's a lot of corporations. So I say, well, you know what? Shut down on a Sunday. We come in and I'll do a 4-hour seminar on how you relate to people, how you relate to your clients, your coworkers. With diversity in the workplace right now, it's needed. Mm-hmm. And to say we have access to so many more people, I still don't know how to speak to you and to treat you like the person you are because I'm so busy hustling. And there has to be a happy medium with how to treat people and how you have to create relationships. And I know you being in media, you know that relationships are what makes everything go.
It's the only thing.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's not about their money. It's the relationship.
Making them happy. He'll come back to you because they like the way you treat them.
Yeah.
And
And it goes back to a little other piece is just being an expert. Like you said, with these vocational opportunities, you become an expert. You learn to be an electrician, you can be a contractor. Then you're building something, and you're building, and you're building. I came from a family on my mom's side; they were painter contractors. So I seen everybody go from their own spray gun to their own little business. And
somebody's still working.
No, I know.
My house too.
They want the house painted. Shout out to Sharon Wright, all right painting. You even come down to LA to paint these girls' houses.
That's what's up.
Yeah, please do.
But that's just a big need in the community, and I think because there's a couple of things. When you talk education, and it's just an interest of mine because I don't know if it's just because I was giving out cheese and butter when I was 14 years old, and just know that there's a need in the community for things. And I've just kind of chose education, sports, and kids because they are the future. You know?
Right.
One out of 7 college kid in Los Angeles homeless due to the fact that there's no affordable housing.
And that's crazy.
You know, so that comes with a sense of mental illness or something going on in the community.
It's going to affect you.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I think and there's honor in that. I think we always look at the bag and, you know, in the shoes, but the things there's honor in that. There's honor in a great electrician. There's honor in a great painter that takes pride in what he does. You know, you see so many of you're working for someone to facilitate their dream and forget about yours, and that's not true. My dream may be to support my family. I come here from another country, or I come here, you know what, I didn't get an education, but I support my family. We have a way of shaming people that don't do what we do. I think there is honor in what you're doing, and there's honor in
that's
trades.
As Black consultants and Black businesses, we got to get back to that, because everything that I do around my house, my electrician, my whoever, I'm looking for someone that's African American that I can empower their family. You know, help them get their kids to college. You know, and you know, my most experience with my electrician, he comes every once in a while when I need something, and he's like meticulous.
Absolutely.
But if he was a white guy, I'd be so, hey, yeah, my bud, you know. But he's a Black guy who's like, nah, Ilya, I got to do it like this. And he gonna charge me for it.
Right. But
you know, it's just the fact that we got to like look at that as a compliment. You know, we out here trying to give you the best service, quality service as African American businesses, and that's still out there.
Right. Now, speaking of, you and I discussed, because I'm starting a 501c.
That's right.
And so I already started a corporation, but the 501c part, instead of going with a reputable company that I know, I chose to go with a brother.
Stop it.
That we went to school with.
Yes, you went to school with
him. Was this the homie hookup?
No, it's not. No, I didn't pay a homie hookup fee.
Okay.
So that's serious, real talk. So I expected a professional job, and my paperwork came back. So I was just it took a lot of meditation this week.
I know who it is. I love you.
Yeah, we went to school with him. He's a really good guy, but it's like bruh. Well, let's read these manuals. I mean, but he did correct the paperwork, and it threw me back, another 30 days, which, for me, it's like another 30 days. It's terrible. Mm-hmm. But, he didn't give me the meticulous work. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I did pay him that meticulous fee. Oh.
So that goes back to building a better community, right? Mm-hmm. So lately what's been in the media is in regards to making better choices. Mm-hmm. So if you combed out your situation, say with the 501, then it wouldn't be all his fault, because then you would have made a better choice, right? Just for instance, right? And then for instance, that the community was better based on me picking better people to have children with.
So what you saying?
Right.
I mean, what you want to do? I mean,
I'm just saying. We've got to. Kids are having kids,
Absolutely.
Having children, and then there's this child support epidemic that's out there. There's, because of the relationship that's been created is already faltered.
Right, and let me say
something. So you're saying
really
slow down and
we got to get back.
Do the background.
Yeah, do a little homework, and then with Google and there's no reason for nobody to be stupid no more. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's no reason for anybody to be stupid, but at the same time, exercise a little common sense, is which I don't see a lot of lately. The red flags, getting into that, but I think that if I thought more of the person that I indulge with, being on the outside of it would fare different. When you talked about child support, so for example, I'm divorced. I have a son and I have a daughter, and I chose my ex-husband to be my son's and my daughter's father. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I didn't go into it blindly. I will not speak ill of him. You understand me? Not to them or to anybody else, because I chose him. I chose who I wanted their father to be. I think that we put everything on other people. We act as victims in a sense. Mm-hmm. If that was your season and that's it, then that's it. I'm not gonna go out and that's me. He's still me. You understand what I mean? People don't look at it like that. He and black men and they do this and this. No, sweetheart, take your responsibility in it. That's something that's over, and you have these beautiful children that you need to raise, and that's their dad, and you need to coexist and come to some kind of mutual communication. If you knew him for 2 days, you don't understand what I mean?
Right.
His wife called you the third day. You understand me? And y'all have and it don't work out, and you have concerns. You know, if you liked her from the back and you didn't think she had a lot of sense, but you had a child with her, you guys have to think about how this is going to manifest itself down the line.
Right.
Create children with somebody that you have a respect or at least a liking for.
Right.
Like you said, and then the background checks and come on. But do I respect what this is? And I think after that happens, the relationship after will reflect what I think of you and what you think of me. Sure, the relationship might not be there anymore, but I think enough of you to speak of you in a certain manner after the fact.
And people change. I mean, a person could be perfect for you, you know, as a partner.
At that time.
And then people change. Life happens, people change. And it's like, what happened to that person? But, you know, you're no longer
life
together.
Happens.
It's just life.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I get that part of it all, but I'm just talking about the initial. You know, I mean, the life part happens. The children come along and what you build on it, you know, I've dealt with all that. I've dealt with that twice.
You mean like credit checks and actual background?
Well, you know, I think it's, you know, it's real simple for me because if I was to want to date someone or I'm going to have some questions I want to ask or the basic questions so that I know that our conditions are kind of congenial versus me like, okay, well.
So you be doing the interview. You be saying, so girl,
exactly.
You shop at Whole Foods, you do Trader Joe's.
Now, you know, people talk
not
about these interview questions, right?
But it's not really so much. You can look at them as an interview, but if I'm asking you your favorite color, or if I'm asking you, do you eat desserts? I'm asking, do you know how to cook? I'm asking things that are personal about you that you could tell me that where I can evaluate a better understanding of who you really are versus your name and where you work and, you know, going, you know, when you really want to know somebody, you ask questions that are
I've had that before. I've had that before.
And I think if you call them interview, you know,
I think it's cool. I'm more organic though. I'm more organic. I like to. I'm like,
but I'm married,
I got your.
so
I get you.
I already asked my 20 questions.
You already had them questions answered.
Yeah.
But if you know, I mean, teaching young men, you know, and being in education and sports and knowing that they're going to go out and I say, hey, man, you got to have some standards about yourself. Like, so when you meet the person, they're equivalent. If you grew up in a house and she grew up in an apartment and then you want to get married and then have kids, where's she going to know how to live at? Is her conditions going to be...
I disagree. Ooh. I disagree.
I don't know, sir.
I disagree.
What's the difference? It is a difference.
Like, I had a friend
I'm only talking like basic things like washing your clothes, washing your car, things of that sort, where she would have to outsource those things, probably living in an apartment setting.
Are you serious?
What I'm getting. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
His, what do you say?
I had a friend. She, because her children came from a 2-parent home, she was like, oh, he's not allowed, her son is not allowed to date someone from a single parent home.
Are you serious?
That is just so retarded to me.
That cuts
off I'm not saying it on those aspects. I'm not saying that the person living in the apartment.
You just said the same thing.
I'm just saying that they can have a difference. I'm not saying that they have some other compatibilities. I was just saying.
Here's my thing. I think, especially women of a certain status, they have a list of people. And I think men do it these days too. They have a list of things. I'm not saying don't focus on standards. I think everybody has their
set of standards.
Their set of standards. Mm-hmm. What always looks good on paper is not always good to my energy.
Right.
And I have to speak to, if you hang around me a little bit, you'll find out my favorite color. You find out how I get down. And if you like being in my space, that's cool. I'll look amazing on paper, but if I don't float your boat, I don't.
Right.
And I think oftentimes we try and do the streamline. Okay, they do this, they do that, they do that. I like to relate to people a little bit better. And you'll find out that, you know what, this is not a match, but, you know, I enjoyed the time. But to me, if you put in the time, you'll find out because the quick questions and the quick answers doesn't always speak to the person. I do horrible on job interviews. But I'm a dope worker. You can lie about
the answers. I mean, that's prevalent too.
Right. They Google, 10 things women won't. Let me cut and paste.
Right.
You understand? So
I didn't mean it like that. I'm really meaning it. I'm really meaning it inside that you got to establish some sort of somewhere. You got to start. That's what I'm getting at. And I'm just using my little poor example.
Let me give you another example, and based on your example and his. say that you have a woman that came from apartments and you came from home. My parents always had homes
I'm not.
too.
I'm
But
okay.
look,
No, just an example.
Let me take it. I'm sorry, wife. I didn't mean to touch him. I'm just a toucher when
That's
I
all
say.
good. Here,
No, I mean, well, I was on stage. You know what I mean? But and you with the single parent,
Right.
bringing that person up and teaching them better, not better, but you're showing them your way.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to talk to you because your mom,
Your dad was with
beating
your
her
mom.
and she had to leave,
Please.
and it's a single parent.
Right.
It's not even better, and I misspoke when I said better, different. I've always been from homes, and I speak to someone or I'm dating someone that had an apartment mentality. Hanging out with me might inspire them to invest in property.
Right.
It may I can show them my way. If
You can
it's not
learn
what
from
they get
anyone.
into.
You can learn from anyone, Ilya.
I'm just saying this. I'm just looking at the difference. That's all I'm saying. And I look at the difference in regards to how you live in
And so
both
a crib
conditions.
could never meet a blood in your
It's
eyes.
not. It's
That's
not.
a lie.
Never
I'm
marry.
not saying it
That's
ain't
a lie.
That's a crib. It can't
But
happen.
I got some strong women here, so I just know you got it, guys. You got to know when to just let it go.
Come on down.
And we're moving on next to next.
We were talking about that one thing. We were talking
What
about
was
maybe that's a
that?
good segue. We were talking about that Will and Jada tease.
Oh yeah, let's speak on that.
Okay, when he was
So-
talking about, go ahead.
No, go ahead. We're watching the Red Table with Jada Smith.
Playing tennis already.
Right.
Girl, I mean,
Go ahead.
yeah, they had a teaser out, and Will was on the show. Have you ever seen it? It's like a Facebook
Red
it's a
Table?
Facebook show. It's called the Red Table, and it's Will. I mean, it's Jada,
It's Jada, her mom, and her daughter.
Okay.
And they have different. I think they've had Gabrielle Union. They've had different people on.
Tiffany Haddish.
Yeah.
Is it podcasters or is this?
It's kind of, but it's on
Kinda,
Facebook.
but it's
Okay.
Yeah, they have actual episodes. You can go back and look at past
Okay.
episodes. Too.
They talk about drug. They talk about everything.
Yeah, I guess her mother used to be
Yeah, on heroin, hooked on
and
heroin.
things like that, and they talk about that. So I guess the teaser is coming up. Will is going to be on there for the first time.
And I want to see it.
Yeah, and he was saying how when they had a bad patch in their marriage, that Jada cried for 45 straight days.
Straight.
She was just that miserable. He said she would get up. He got to the point where he started keeping a diary that he wrote every day she cried, and he said to himself that, well, I'm failing miserably because she feels that way. And
Wow.
I wanted to get your take on that. Since you're here, we're going to take both of
Because
you.
typically, you hear a woman saying those words versus a man. And I'm not saying that men aren't sensitive, men don't love, but I just don't view them as that way.
All right, this is probably a way I could kind of redeem myself a little bit because
Mad at you? I mean,
in 2007, I was sitting on a front porch with a group of older men, right? And they, through all this conversation in regards to being married and making sure that their family is together and all that, all of them had this communion of saying, anything goes wrong, it's your fault. I don't care how bad it is. I don't care what it is. It's for the man to take responsibility for whatever it is in a relationship.
Wow.
Because the other part is that we chase you, right? Then we capture you.
Absolutely.
Then you give us something that is so meaningful to you.
Right.
And then most men who mess it up, is trying to do what? He's trying to go back and recapture you, So that's why they always say, go back to the way you first, if you lose your girl or whatever, your companion is like, go back to what got her the first time, You got to go back. And it's a fundamental. But what has helped me in a relationship is that no matter what it is, I just take responsibility. It's a little stressful. It's a little stressful. It's a little stressful, but at the same token, everything has reason to it. So at some point, initially I may take responsibility, then down the road you'll kind of feel that, maybe,
He's
y'all
hoping.
kind of soften up as the road keeps paving, as you could say. But that's what I've learned, is just to be, as a man in a relationship, it's really all 100% your responsibility. It's for you to cater to her. It's for you to make sure she's happy.
That's huge.
And I think that what women naturally give as being nurturing is just something natural. That's organic.
Right.
The things that she wants to do to you should be just organic. But for as provisions and just being a very male chauvinistic kind of guy, you really take responsibility for what the woman's needs
Wow.
are.
low-key. I know I wasn't supposed to say that. But, But there's a ruggedness to, babe, sit down, let me take care of that.
Right.
And I think that when you're, quote, an independent type of independent women, I know in my case, and like in relationship now, but when you do things because you have to, they need to get done. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do this and that needs to be done. There's no way that I don't need or want or desire your companionship. And if you want to take this load, help me carry it, let's have it.
Right.
But I also believe, the other balance, which I learned is that if we're in a relationship, you have your personal life, people you know way before me, friends, all that type of stuff, right?
Right.
I got the same thing. Right. So it's like you have to allow that person to live their lives. And then you kind of live your life, and then what you do is you make time together.
That is so true.
To where you like, if it's a vacation, something she just looking forward to, and it's just really you, or if it's a night in a week where you're just gonna go out and sip and paint.
You have to. Oh my God!
You gotta have that. So guys can't be so super. Guys and women can't be super focused on their companion. You got to have something you're interested in.
Thank you.
You do.
I'm so glad you said you.
I love that position.
I love that too.
I think the problem is when men have past friends that got titties. I think that's the problem.
Or the man, he thinks that, you're hanging out with your girls, he thinks you're doing something else.
Exactly. And the other way, the women that hang around Melvin, that, that's not what he means by being enriched.
It's a part of it you got to let go, but it's also, in relationships, we create a lot of insecurities in relationships.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
and we bring them with us.
Just like right now, you could turn my phone on. You can grab it, run out the street with it. You know what I'm saying? My thing is that, we start off with an insecurity with just like passcodes and, and
that's huge for her.
What you mean?
That is huge for her.
No, passcodes on your phone, and she can grab your phone.
My phone is sitting right there. That is huge for your wife that you would just leave
her phone open.
Because
my thing is that it's two parts. You want a clean life. You don't want to have all this mess and garbage and drama and all that. It's already enough dealing with the people you're dealing with. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're gonna go out here and create that with 5 other people. That just don't make no sense.
That's the way today. That is the way. Remember when someone had to call your house and actually like come through your dad and say, may I speak to this person? And
they had to call your
house. Yeah, and you had like
not nowadays.
4 of these, and you can be 4 different people, and you can have 4 different.
My first considered girlfriend, Dad used to wait on the porch when I dropped her off.
Good for Dad.
But I would pick her up. I was a guy that would pick her up from school. Like I got out of school, she got out of school. I pick her up from school and I drop her off at home. Mm-hmm. You only had that little. You driving slow as possible because you only get that little time to get her home. But then when I went home and told my mom I met this girl, then they wanted to meet their parents.
Right.
We don't have that no more.
Right.
We don't. Well, we do with some people because I always meet the parents.
Let me ask you, can you tell the difference as a man, and actually your perspective too, when a woman had a father in her life versus when she doesn't? Does that woman have a different energy?
I mean, I've been with the same woman for 19 years whose father was a doctor and was he created radiology in hospitals. And that's so nice. He had already like big shoes to fill. Mm-hmm. He was good. He went to Union, Virginia. So he was like, one of these guys that, as having kids, he made sure all the provisions for it, because she was the only girl. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So all her provisions was like guided through him.
Well, maybe like with your students, like if you have 2 students, can you tell when a father
is in the life and
when a father in life, based on kind of their demeanor and their energy?
Well, I've learned when there's no father just dealing with student athletes is because how they address you when there's a problem. Mm-hmm. See, women dress you with a problem with emotions.
Right.
A man dress you with problems with some sort of anger. So if you're a kid that's angry, then you might got an uncle or something. But if you're a kid that, I quit, I'm my jersey, I don't want to play no. Well, his mama is the one, because that's how she interacts with him. Like when he don't do what he need to do, she's yelling and screaming at him. So that's all he know to do with me is to yell and scream at me and be upset and be emotional. And then what they do at the end of the day, they apologize. I'm sorry. So I've seen that with student athletes, boys, more so when you kind of know that there's really no males around.
What about you?
For me, just with the girls that my sons have brought home, you can kind of tell. by the way that they approach me. So yeah, you can just tell.
So
fathers are needed.
What's the scenario
fathers are very much
when
needed.
There's no father coming to your house with your son?
Normally dressed, with really, really short shorts. And it's like, hey, Kim.
Ooh.
It's like,
Kim.
oh, wait, let me walk you back to the porch.
Okay. Miss B or
my
Miss
sons
Kim?
know. They prep them now because they know. But yeah, they really do know.
Here's a manual. Read this.
Right. And then my son will call me.
weeks.
He's like, Mom, you on speaker. So,
Yeah, so you on speaker, so you don't
Here's the manual. Say this.
Which
Say
one?
this. I'm just trying to get some popcorn in the movie with you, girl. You know,
right.
it's gonna be hard.
Yeah, I'm looking for that day. My son is 14, so.
Oh, he's 14. How's your daughter?
Well, he'll be 14 in next month. She's 18, and she just started she went on her first little hangout last night, so.
Like a shelter kids.
I'm feeling. I know they were. And what's funny is I told my son I was coming on this podcast, and both of them, they were in the same room, and he goes, "Hey, mom is going on." They were like, "Oh yeah." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And they're like, every time we bring something up to you, some scenario, he said it becomes an hour conversation. And I said, "So what you saying?" He said, "No, you explain things. You talk to things." I remember he was talking about making some money. So I sat down and I explained the whole, economics is my favorite subject to teach. So I'm like, okay, say you got $5, and I get into that thing. So he's always like, I explain. And I said, let me let you understand why you can't go. Or why you don't need to stay night over that child's house, or why we don't do it. I won't say it's not emotional. I'm calmer, and I feel like, and I think I told you, I'm not certain if I told you this, I don't know how much time we have left. But when I was in college, I had the little, my little apartment, $500, girl. And and there was a lady that, the kind of apartments that have upstairs, and there are apartments, and I was coming out the carport. I was walking to my car, and it was a lady with her 2 sons. And she was getting some stuff out the car. Mm-hmm. They walked up to their door, and I'm up to my door, and I hear her go, "What you doing?" And he said, "Well, Mom, I brought the bag up." He got it out the car. She set it out the car, so he brought the bag. "I didn't want that bag. If I wanted the bag, I would have grabbed the bag." She started going in. This little boy was maybe 8 years old. And I was not a mom then, not married or anything. And I was like, at that moment, in moments like that, I was like, if you don't make your kid feel like somebody in the house, that world is going to tear them up. Right. So I was like, why didn't she say, "Well, baby, I'm going to come back and get it, but you know what, let me lock up and we'll walk back down and take it down." There are so many different ways that could have been handled, and then you look at the opposite end. Our parents wasn't trying to hear any discussion. This is what you do. Right. So I kind of wanted to find a happy medium where, no, you can't do X, Y, and Z, but let me let you understand why. I wanted them to feel like they had some sense of self, because self is who you bring into everything. Right. With your insecurities, your relationships, your students. It is. It is.
It's tough because, I'm dealing with a 20-year-old and being an absentee father, they lived in a different state. So you're not there every day. You're there consistently, but you're not there every day. So the things you talk about, it's just another part of what we're dealing with fathers are just not with their kids every day. Mm-hmm. You get to instill that, because as a mother, your kids are with you. You get to every day instill that. To now, they just kind of, like you said in the beginning, they just know, oh, okay, that's this is.
And I don't think you're absentee because you were there consistently. And
but it's consistent. And I said absentee.
I think it's different.
Let me explain the absentee. The absentee more so is when your kid comes up to you and say, "Daddy, he's 14, and can you help me tie a tie?" Oh. And then your other 20-year-old comes to you and says, "You say, hey, you going out tonight? You want me to help you with the tie?" Like, "No, my coach helped me with that." So that's the absentee, meaning there's
you
things
there
you
at
miss
the pivotal point.
That you miss. Is just you may have been there for that game, you may have been there for that weekend, that birthday, but that every day is what you were talking about, is what is instilled, and that's what mothers do so well, is they give these kids these synergy that you're talking about. That's beyond me going out playing basketball or throwing a ball with you. It's a conversation.
Do you find your adult son needs you now more as a man?
Yeah, but a lot of denial, a lot of bitterness. And so now I'm giving him the tough love piece, because he was living with me and he just seemed like you don't really get it. So now I got to give you another aspect of what life consists of.
That must be
because
hard.
you're giving, and I don't get a thank you, no appreciation. It's like no appreciation of anything. Car, room.
I think that's what any kids though. My kids don't appreciate.
It's not even so much that. It's just the fact that it's like to walk around the house and be upset at me and I'm making provisions for you. That just don't make sense. So let's see how it works for you to make your own provisions and go your own road. And maybe you need to fall down a little bit, you know. So that's the other part of parenting that you just, it's tough love, you know, like you want the best for them. But when you feel like when do you stop? Like mothers, y'all don't stop. Fathers, we like, okay, we've had enough. You know, okay, we've done. And every male I talk to that's a mentor, like, yeah, you just got to do this with him now. Because
tough love.
You've given him all this and this and this and this, and he's not catching on. So
he'll realize.
Okay, well, it's the weekend. Oh, my son is going. Gar has their homecoming tonight.
Oh, nice.
So my son is going to homecoming, and then Saturday's his birthday. Girl, we have a busy weekend.
Doing? You got a busy weekend going
on.
Very
busy. What do you do when you have a daughter? When you're the father of a daughter who didn't get asked to homecoming, what do you do?
Take her.
You take her?
I take my daughter.
Because
I'd encourage her to go.
I'm enjoying myself. Like, let's go.
I overheard a dad. He was just complaining how nobody asked his daughter to the homecoming dance, and she was really upset, and went to him crying. I was just like, oh.
Or I would find out if there's a kid that she likes, or maybe from her group of friends, is there a guy that she would think, and then see if I could call their parents and see if they. Because I went through that in high school. I think 11th grade prom, where some girl didn't get asked, and their parents called me, and I said I'll take her.
Oh, that was nice.
That was nice. All right. Well, that brings our show to a close. Thank you so much for being here, Angela Scott and Ilya Daly. Sorry. Have a great weekend, and see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
The Consortium of Health and Military Performance, also known as CHAMP, of the Uniformed Services University of Health and Science, known as USUHS, is conducting a study to understand a possible genetic link between sickle cell trait, known as SCT, and exercise-related events, known as EREs, such as exertional rhabdomyolysis, muscle damage, heat stroke, and/or collapse. We are inviting African-American men and women with sickle cell trait and their family members to participate. Participating in the study will require you to complete a health history questionnaire, a form authorizing our study physician to gather health information from you and your healthcare provider, as well as a one-time blood donation. In order to qualify for the study, you must meet the following criteria: be African American, be sickle cell trait positive, be able to read, speak, and understand English, be between the ages of 18 and 80, and currently not being treated for any mental or psychological disorders. Participation is completely voluntary, and your decision will not impact your healthcare. The results for this study are for research purposes only and are not intended to directly benefit any individual for confidentiality reasons. However, the results of this study are intended to help better shape policies and associated health risks affecting the SCT community. Participants may be compensated for their time. To join the study, or if you would like additional information regarding the study, please contact the study team by phone, area code 240-479-9514, or email sctstudy-ggg@usuhs.edu.